So Veganuary underway once again, the yearly campaign to get us to try a vegan diet, vegan lifestyle. Not everyone's up for it. Lots of comments coming through today, and I have to say on my Facebook page, not a lot of love for it. The charity Public Health Collaboration, PHC, has launched an alternative called Organuary, saying that offal is cheap and nutritious, and actually, rather than going down the vegan lifestyle, we should go down the offal lifestyle. So would you have a go at eating liver, kidneys, oxtail, tripe throughout this month for Organuary, or are you going down the vegan route? Well, let's talk to Dr. Joanne McCormack, one of the founders of the Public Health Collaboration, PHC, which is running Organuary. Joanne, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining us. Also with us is Aidan Coughlin, who's the Suffolk rep for the Vegan Runners. Good morning, Aidan.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for joining us. I'll start with you, Aidan. Just explain what Veganuary is all about.
So Veganuary is a campaign that, as the name implies, centres on the start of the new year and sort of imploring people to give the vegan diet a chance to make it work for them. I mean, you mentioned both vegan diet and vegan lifestyle, and I certainly take your point, but really Veganuary really is more about the vegan diet itself. There is a lot more to veganism. Veganism isn't a diet as such. Veganism is a philosophical way of viewing the world. And as a result of that, we don't eat animal products. But Veganuary is simply about taking the animal products off your plate. So for many people this morning, that might have been just a few switches at breakfast, a couple of switches at lunch, and then a different dinner. And doing that for the period of January. And then hopefully, for many, if not the majority of people, they can, if not adopt a full vegan diet for the rest of their lives, can sort of understand that they're not missing out by not eating animals, and really that is the gist of it.
A lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people on my Facebook page this morning overwhelmingly saying, what a load of old tosh.
Well, of course, it's a good job that veganism is a protected philosophical belief, but I won't worry too much about people that don't like it. Some people are entirely unwilling to change or to make any adaptations whatsoever. I suppose my appeal to them would be, what if you're wrong? What have you got to lose by taking animal products off your plate? You'll be doing not only yourself a favour, but also the environment. And let's be honest, the reason we're doing this, you'll be doing the animals a favour as well.
Why do you want to convert people to veganism when there are plenty of people who will quite happily give it a go? They don't need pushing or persuading. People don't like being pushed, and there are an awful lot of vegans who push the diet and the lifestyle on people who perhaps don't want it.
Well, I don't proselytise. I would never force anyone to do something against their will. I think we need to remember here, though, that there are also agents here, people need to remember that there are victims of our choices to consume so many animal products. Of course, the environment will be manifesting itself in a way that we'll all become victims of it eventually if we don't make changes. And animals too are a huge victim of this. I mean, in the world, we slaughter somewhere in the region of 50 billion animals a year and about 3 trillion marine animals. That is a huge number of victims who had no personal choice whatsoever. If I can give those statistics to people and they don't make an impact, then I know that people aren't convinced, and that's absolutely fine. But some people are.
Let me bring in Dr. Joanne McCormack, who is one of the people behind Organuary. Joanne, just explain that. You'd like us to eat offal?
Well, offal packs a big nutritional punch, and for the people who do continue or want to have a mixed diet, it's a very good way of getting vitamins and minerals. It also highlights the fact that a lot of the areas of the vegan diet which are missing nutrients and where people need to do supplementation, it highlights the fact that those nutrients come from offal in quite high amounts, and you don't need to eat a lot of offal to actually get that amount of nutrition. So we had this idea about having Organuary instead of Veganuary, just to give people a choice, really, because not everybody, like the earlier, your speaker said.
Aidan's with us, yes.
Yes, Aidan said, sorry. Like Aidan said, not everybody chooses to be a vegan, and not everybody believes that it's better for the environment. And certainly we're thinking about sustainable farming.
Right. Do you not think that it's a better diet for you?
Well, you do have to have supplements. I mean, I've looked at the Veganuary website, which I think is very good, to be fair. And I don't interfere in people's philosophical beliefs. A belief is a belief. And so if I have a vegan patient, I will encourage them to eat the healthiest vegan diet possible. And one of the concerns I've got about the vegan diet is not that when it's done well, it's when it's done very badly. And so I do welcome extra information about vegan lifestyle where it's well done, because it's obvious from the Veganuary site that you do need to buy supplements, and that's fine. I mean, I want my patients to be healthy, so if they're vegans, I want them to be healthy vegans. But the Organuary campaign is really about getting more nutrition from your diet. It's also about sustainable farming. So it's not right that we just eat muscle meat, for instance. You know, if an animal has to die, why do we just eat the muscle meat? Why not eat everything, nose to tail, eat the organ meat, which is the most nutritious bit of the animal?
Wendy's been in touch. She says, I feel great for not eating meat. No more irritable bowel syndrome or yeast infection. The thing is, though, being a vegan means going all the way, not wearing leather shoes, carrying leather bag, etc., etc. What most of us do these days is go vegetarian, not vegan. But here she is, someone saying, look, you know, I've stopped eating meat and I feel a whole lot better for it.
Well, I think if people do it well, they can feel very well, particularly if they've come from a junk food diet. I mean, a proper vegan diet where people eat whole food and don't eat rubbish is much better than a standard British junk food diet. And I'm speaking to people, and people are very honest with me. Some people have terrible diets. I've had people who live on tea with sugar, eat no food. I've had people who live on biscuits and pies and nothing else. So going from that to having a properly formulated vegan diet with supplements is an awful lot better, and people will feel better.
Aidan, if it's such a good diet, why do you need supplements?
Well, that's an interesting question, because in this country we have a multi-billion-pound supplement industry and hardly any vegans. I think that kind of answers itself. We're obsessed with supplements. I do take the doctor's point, and I think of all the interlocutors I've ever spoken to about veganism, perhaps one of the most open-minded and very well-informed. And to be fair, she gave a very good appraisal of things. I think it's important to make sure we get enough vitamin B12, but that could apply also to people that consume animal products also. And there are other trace elements as well of vitamins and minerals that we need. But as long as you're eating, as the doctor rightly said, a whole foods vegan diet, you're very likely going to be ensuring you're getting enough of all these nutrients in. And I'm glad we haven't mentioned protein. There's always a fear that we're not getting enough protein. But as long as you're eating, again, a good whole foods diet, you're not eating a junk food diet. You could eat as a vegan and eat junk food. I mean, that's certainly possible. There's nothing automatically healthy about being vegan. Again, it is actually what you put in your mouth. So myself and the doctor are certainly on agreement on that point.
Okay, and let's go back to Dr. Joanne McCormack. So you're suggesting that we honour the animal if it's been butchered and eat the liver, the kidneys, etc., the heart, the tongue?
I think that's true, and in difficult financial times, these products are much cheaper. I mean, we give an example on our website of lamb shank, which costs £10. £10 per kilogram, but lamb's liver is £2.50 per kilogram. And I find people on limited budgets, especially pensioners, are very willing to go, to buy a bit of offal. And we're not talking about an awful lot. I mean, back in 1974, people ate about 50 grams a week. And now we eat on average about 5 grams per week. So it's really gone down. But in difficult times, it's a very good way to get a small amount of food, which gives you an awful lot of nutrition.
You could grow your own vegetables in the garden for a fraction.
You could indeed. And I'm not saying don't eat vegetables, and I'm not saying have a wholly meat diet. I am just saying honour the animal. And there are farms now, local farms, where they, make organic, grow food organically, grow animals organically. Britain is a place where 90% of the food for cattle is actually grass, which is great, and it's much better for the environment than the statistics quoted about the big feedlots in America. And I grew up on a farm. My grandparents were farmers, and we spent a lot of time, and I still do spend time on the farm now that my cousins run it. But I see how farming's changed over the years, from having 4 cows and 20 chickens and 1 pig to having massive fields full of potatoes and lots of beef. Whereas that sort of little farm that they had in the 1950s and 60s was much more sustainable for the environment, and they rotated their crops and they made what they needed and a bit more to sell, rather than trying to have massive feedlots with thousands of cows which are all being mistreated. I mean, I don't want to eat meat that comes from animals like that. I want to eat meat where the animals have been well looked after. And I'm not saying eat masses of meat. I'm saying, eat some because you can get short of some vital things.
When you talk about you want to eat meat and you want to know it's been well reared and well cared for. I mean, Aidan mentioned fish earlier on, and stuff coming out of our oceans, which is coming out in huge, massive factory trawlers. A lot of people are looking at this now and saying, well, hang on a minute, what is going on here? Perhaps it is time to rethink what we eat and how we live.
I think it definitely is. And I would much rather get eggs from our local farm. We've got Poplar's Farm locally, which I've seen the hens just pecking around in the fields freely. They could fly away if they wanted. I'd much rather eat eggs from there than eat, say, pineapples that have been flown in halfway across the world. And I think the thing about fish you've mentioned is very important. I'd rather have a really good piece of salmon once a year, which was a wild salmon, and wait for it and have a small piece of it, not have a massive piece, rather than having farmed salmon where the fish have been fed who knows what.
Okay.
And, like every week.
We're going to have to leave it there, both of you. Thank you very much, though. Really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to hear from you as well on this. That's Dr. Joanne McCormack, one of the founders of the Public Health Collaboration, PHC, which is running Organuary, encouraging us to eat offal and to make the most of an animal after it's been butchered. And Aidan Coughlin, Suffolk rep for the Vegan Runners on Veganuary. So what do you think of Veganuary or the other one, which is all about eating offal? It's called Organuary.